What is up, Roughnecks? This is Pwnsaurus Rex of Pwnsaurus Rex Gaming, and today we're going to be taking this lowly fantasy orc and turning him into an Ork Boy so he can join the WA. Take a second to subscribe, like the video, and let's get started.
Alright guys, so here's a close-up look of the orc. As you can see on his side, we already started shaving off his belt pouch, which we're going to need to clean up a little bit more as well. So here he is. His entire torso, legs, and arms are all one mold piece, with the head glued on and his left wrist and weapon glued on. So we're going to have to clean that up. But first, we're going to need to look at a box of materials that we're going to use to convert him, which is the Start Collecting Orcs box is what we're going to be using today. In this box, I had 15 combinations of weapons left over after creating the initial boys. I had 10 shooters and 5 shooter chopper combinations. We're going to be using a shooter combination today, as well as we're going to be using some other bits as like shoulder pads and other things to make him look more like an Ork Boy and less like a fantasy orc. There are plenty of parts left on the sprues to make this conversion. I suggest that if anybody has a Start Collecting Orcs box, to think about using those parts to make conversions. In a future episode, I will be making conversion orcs using a cost-effective method in order to reduce the cost. Each Ork Boy is roughly $3 a piece. If you can reduce that cost to, say, $2 a piece, you're doing pretty well. There are multiple places to buy parts. Now, in a GW tournament, you cannot use parts from other places, but you can use these parts at a local game store, more than likely, unless they are pretty hardcore. So I'm cleaning up the belt pouch right here, cleaning that off, making his hip and his leg flatter and more like an Ork Boy, because they don't have belt pouches like that. Let's do some time lapse here and move along. Alright guys, so here we are looking at his left arm. We're going to cut that off right here so that we can fit in his shooter holding arm. We're also going to shave it off. So we cut off the arm and then we're going to shave off. Do not cut like I do. That is extremely dangerous. I could cut my thumb. I have been doing this a long time, so I'm not concerned about my safety, but I am concerned about yours. So just don't do what I do. Make sure to learn how to use these knives properly, and don't ever follow what I'm doing just because it may or may not be safe, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. So after I shave off basically his shoulder off and make that kind of flat for an arm to attach to, we're going to move on to the other side and cut off the other arm as well. Cutting through this old plastic is not as difficult as cutting through the current plastic. The current plastic is much more rugged than this old plastic. I don't know when this orc was made. It said 2001 on the base, but the base is, he may not have been put on an original base. I don't know. But so now we're going to take and we're going to look at the different weapons. I decided to go with a Shuta because it would cover up his fat, pregnant fantasy orc belly. In order to do that, though, we're going to need to carve out some of his stomach in order to get this to work. And in order to do that, we're going to use the hobby knife as well as use a file to get it down. I will be time-lapsing that as well. So right here you can see that the Shuta is attached and it is flush and everything is good, and you don't see the gap that I filed and cut out of his chest and stomach. It actually sits and looks perfect. I'm actually really happy with the way it turned out. Now I'm holding him up over the corner, but he will come back down. There we go. And he is back in the frame, and there you are seeing him. He looks really nice right now. You could be technically done with him right there and just leave him as an ordinary orc. But I think we need to take him and make him a little bit more fancy. He's going to need some shoulder pads. He's going to need something on his back to make him a little prettier, and maybe a little cherry on top. So here we go, and I'm looking at the different parts on his back and on his hip and on his sides, and I'm just not feeling anything just yet. There's the shotgun. I was just looking at the chopper, and we're going to look at the grenades here in a second. I'm just not feeling exactly how I want to set it up yet, so we're going to move on to something else. We're going to look at his shoulder pad, which I picked out a nice spiky one that makes him look like a good orc. We want him to join the WA and be pretty badass, so let's take a look at the way this goes on there. This is going to change the entire feel of this model right here. With that one item right there, it makes this model look a heck of a lot better. I'm actually going to put another shoulder on later, and I was thinking about putting a face, I don't even know what they call those. It's just like a metal teeth across the front sort of deal. and I think that would have looked okay, but I decided against that. I wanted to just keep his face nice and normal because it looked good. It's a different face. It's an orc face, but it's a little bit of a different orc face than we have normally. But here, we're going to put the cherry on top of his head, which is just like a little... I don't even know. It just kind of made him... It gave him that personality of a space orc, and I was kind of happy with it. It made him look ridiculous. And there we go. Right there, he looks like an orc boy. Right there. That's the transition right there to look like an orc boy. Now his back is still a little bit empty, so I wanted to put something back there, but I had to take a second to think about the items that I had picked out, which there wasn't really much. There was a shotgun, there was the grenades, and there was the basically a machete or a chopper, I guess you could call it. And we'll take a look at those and see which one we come up with. Eventually I decided to put that chopper on his hip. But let's time lapse again. Alright guys, so here he is, completed with his little ponytail on top, his shooter, his shoulder pads, and his chopper on the side. He definitely looks like he's part of the WoW now, and no longer part of the fantasy orc regime. He looks absolutely amazing. I am really happy with the way he turned out.
Alright guys, so that is how you convert a fantasy orc to a orc boy. That was a lot of fun. I had fun doing that. At any rate, I had fun doing that, and here he is. He actually survived that fall. So, thank you so much for watching, and once again, if you liked the video, make sure to give it a like. If you like the channel, and you like other videos and you want other videos like this, make sure to subscribe. And if I don't see you in the comments below, I'll see you in the next video.